Car dealers have literally ruined the used car market. When you go onto a lot of these car lots now, you'll find that now what's going on, because the shortages that we experienced in the last 5 years, a lot of these car dealers are getting anything. They're literally putting just about anything that they can find on the lot to fill that spot. It's better to have a lot full of mediocre vehicles that looks like, like they have a lot of specials, a lot of deals. They have a lot of great vehicles for you to choose from as a buyer. You walk in there and you see a lot of vehicles. Always looks better, perception, than having a car lot that's wide open and empty and only having maybe 3 or 4 vehicles. But what's happening now is a lot of these car dealers are getting their vehicles from auctions, trade-ins, lease returns, and areas that sometimes normally they wouldn't even bother with. A lot of mainstream OEM dealers would normally not even touch a vehicle that was 6 or 7 years old, let alone damage history, wrecks, flood history. They would just let those go away. But guess what? That's all changing, and this last couple years have proven the strong demand for customers to get a car, a used car, a new car, just drove the necessity to put anything on the car lot. I mean, I've had a look around. I've seen vehicles, trucks, for example, that were clearly on the other side of the law. People used them, they abused them, they beat them up, they look rough. I mean, just look around here. You see banged and bruises and broken parts, and clearly there's markings on the vehicle that would indicate it was probably not used in the nicest of fashions. But there's lots of vehicles like this, trucks like that. We're also finding engines laying on crates because the vehicle was driven so hard that sometimes they end up wrecking it, hitting a tree, the engine pops out, or, a lot of times these parts, they'll just end up when the tow truck driver or the repo man shows up, the engine's on the ground, or the vehicle's wrecked, or parts are missing, and they have to throw it in the box and they tow the whole 9 yards back to the repo yard or the auction house to where they can put it all together. Now, the dealers have the resources to put together vehicles that would normally be substandard. For example, an engine out, that's a gearbox that's missing. They have the resources, they have the mechanics, they have the technology, and they can throw a little bit of money at it if they get one of these repossessed vehicles for next to nothing. They don't mind spending a few grand to put it back together only to sell it for double the money. And they know that, we know that. Now, the worst part is you and I could in fact be driving one of these absolute disasters. I mean, just look around. Any vehicle that you see on the street today is a huge risk for the possibility that it could have been in a previously bad situation, accident, maybe repossessed. Now let's face it, repossessions are up. I mean, people with credit scores of 670 are looked at right now, and dealers and lenders, or banks and lenders, are often still partially giving loans to people with substandard or subprime ratings. For example, 670. People that are riskier buyers often just don't care. They're on the verge of not being able to make the payments because their credit score is poor. So there's probably a bit of a track record. So they get into a car barely, they miss the payments, and lo and behold, they're not able to sustain it. And then they get angry, they get upset, and they end up smashing it, abusing it, revving it. And sometimes white exhaust coming out, usually a head gasket, means they just bagged it. Or maybe they went off-roading it with it when they knew there was nothing left and they only had a week before the repo guy is showing up. So people are not kind to repossessed vehicles. They're never. They know it's coming. The writing's on the wall. And when the repo man shows up, these people don't care. They've missed the payments. They've defaulted on how many payments. And basically, at this point, it doesn't even matter. Scratch it, bang it up. It's usually pretty beat up inside, pretty beat up outside. Like I said, sometimes mechanical components are missing altogether. Wheels are banged up. In many cases, the vehicles aren't even drivable. But what's happening is a lot of dealers, and I've seen some dealers, they'll get a hold of some of these cars, these trucks, and they're able to piecemeal it back together. They have great techniques for both getting it running again, getting the mechanics sorted out, even the cosmetics. They can do wonders by sending somebody into a detailer shop. And I've even seen where they spray paint carpets just to match up, kind of worn out areas, make it look fresher. A lot of times the bolsters on seats are pretty good telltale signs how the vehicle's been treated, or the mileage. A lot of times they're dressing them up. It's like lipstick on a pig, and they basically just put a bunch of lipstick and It's still a pig, you know. So, but the problem is you don't know what you're buying these days. It could be a wonderful vehicle, but it might be an absolute heap of junk. But the point of the matter is there's a lot of checks you've got to do to protect yourself. Definitely Carfax, CarProof. Pull a lien on it. Make sure there's no outstanding balances on borrowing for this vehicle. Check all of its history. Make sure it's got a clean title. You know, a dirty title might mean that it's been underwater. It might have been wrecked. And unfortunately, even that's not a guarantee, because now there's title washing. Certain states like California are allowing certain people to take a vehicle across state border lines and then basically retitle it with a fresh and clean title. It might have been patched up, fixed up, but unfortunately, sometimes you just don't know. So good inspection, PPI, pre-purchase inspection, do all those other checks might ensure that you get yourself a better vehicle. But unfortunately, we're in such a volatile place. If you want to get yourself a used vehicle, you're at risk. And the car dealers are a big part of that. And even shady backyard dealers as well. I mean, those car curbers and those people selling them in the backyard of their shady looking house. A lot of those people too are doing the same thing. Where they'll buy a smashed up car at the dealer and they'll bang out a few dents in the fender and again, you know, maybe replace a couple parts and polish up the wheels, and next thing you know, they got something that looks a lot better, looks salvageable. So the big thing here is, where is this market going? It's really, really ugly right now because, like I said, there was a time 5 years ago, you wouldn't even look at a vehicle that was, you know, 9 or 10 years old, that was on a car lot. It wouldn't have, you know, like those kind of vehicles, just the dealers would not sell that type of vehicle. The only time you'd find a, you know, even buy or consider buying a 10 or 12 or 15-year-old vehicle was by this point, it's pretty much on the used market. But now you're finding those on the dealer lots. And like I say, the dealers are, you know, putting that lipstick on those pigs, cleaning them up, and taking what once was a real heap of junk that was abused and likely a repossession, because now repossessions are up. Now, obviously, a lot of people are underwater on their loan payments. They have to give that vehicle up. And they're basically just, at this point, they don't even care. Throw in the towel, wreck that vehicle, take it away. It doesn't matter. We also know that, hey, it's a matter of time where the repo man who's at risk for his own personal safety is no longer going to be a thing, because even Ford has patented now the technology to actually have that vehicle repossessed on its own. So they don't have it incorporated in their vehicles yet, but they're developing that technology, or they're at least patenting that technology. And then you'll basically have a vehicle that'll drive itself to the auction house or to its lending building or to wherever it belongs, to its rightful owner, whoever put the money down on this vehicle. The vehicle will drive itself there. So unfortunately, repossessions are on the rise because people can't make their payments. It's a sad state of affairs. But because of that, a lot of these rough cars that are repossessions or just used and abused are landing on car dealer lots. They're dressing them up and they're flipping them. And that is ruining the used car market, because a lot of people are getting that hunk of junk that never should have been resold. Hopefully that opens your eyes a little bit, that maybe you're not going to get caught up in that place. Make sure you do all those right checks. Make sure you know the background and the history of that vehicle. The odometer lines up. The Carfax tells you the storyline, and that you're not getting snookered with a junky repossessed vehicle or a vehicle that was underwater. So please, again, thanks everyone. Please do drop a line down there. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really would help a lot. Trying to build it up, and only to share my knowledge, wisdom, and experience in the car industry with you. Thanks everyone. See you real soon. Bye-bye.